Alright, we're here for a really exciting final round. Goblins versus Storm. Not a matchup I ever would have thought I'd see in the finals of a vintage tournament. Seems traditionally bad for the Goblin player. I mean, in Legacy anyways, when I'm playing Storm, I want to play against Goblins all day. But John has a lot of experience with Goblins. He's top 8 at a Star City with Goblins in Legacy. And he's the Goblin guy, as far as I'm concerned.
If anybody's going to take down a vintage tournament with Goblins, it's going to be John. It's a tough matchup. He has his work cut out for him, but he had a lot of work to do to get to the finals. He actually got past an Oath of Druids deck, which is very tough. I was unable to do it when I played against it. I had a turn 3 win against it. That was nowhere near fast enough. They just crushed me on turn 2 with me staring at a very good hand, but it wasn't good enough. What you really need on the Goblin side of the table is disruption and a clock, and we'll see how that works out for John here. He's mulliganing, looking for some disruption. Now, main deck, he's looking at Nullrod, Chalice of the Void, Grafdigger's Cage, Strip Mine, and Wasteland as ways of interfering with Jesse's plan. Unfortunately, Strip Mine and Wasteland really don't do that much versus the Storm deck if they've got an explosive hand. So you have to kind of hope that the Storm player recognizes that you're on Goblins and keeps a hand that's a little slow, thinking this will probably get there. I mean, what can Goblins really do?
Right. And John's removal is all permanent based. He doesn't have any stack based removal in the form of like Mind Break Trap or something in the main.
Yeah, not in the main. Post-board, he's probably going to be bringing in his Pyroblast and his Red Blast and his Mental Missteps. Those are likely to do a bunch of work. Pyroblast and Red Blast, not exactly where you want to be because the most damaging spells in the deck are black.
Right.
But it can still stop an Ancestral, a Twister, Merchant Scroll, Brainstorm. There are so many cards that it does hit, and it's got to be better than some of the other stuff in the Goblin list in this matchup. A card like Gem Palm Incinerator is going to do absolutely nothing in this matchup.
Doesn't even potentially kill a Blightsteel Colossus. Even if he has 11 Goblins, it's still indestructible.
Yes. Yes, there's literally nothing that card can do except cycle to draw a card.
At that point, it might as well just be a useful spell.
So we've got a Gem Palm. Oh, speaking of Gem Palms.
Double Gem Palms.
All the Gem Palms.
He's got a turn 1 Matron, which might... no, because... So, turn 1 Matron would be okay if he also had a turn 1 Lackey. If he could do turn 1 Lackey Matron, I mean, then that sets you up for a turn 2 Prowl. But...
Well, no, I think if he goes turn 1 Matron and then has a black source, I mean, that would be a turn 2 Earwig squad.
Oh, a turn 2 squad, yeah.
I mean, he could prowl in the Earwig, because it's just whenever the Goblin damages him.
Yeah, but Jesse's just gonna win on turn 1, most likely.
So we've got a Dark Ritual. We'll see where this goes. This could be a Necro, which would mean he'd have to pass the turn unless he has a Time Walk.
Right.
Let's see how much explosive mana he has. We've got a Fetch as well. Presumably grabbing an Underground Sea. It's unlikely he's going to be playing around Wasteland here. Oh, he is. So he looks like he will be passing the turn in all likelihood.
So yeah, probably a Necro. John inspecting the awesome altar on the Asian Pacific Island.
I don't know who the artist of that is. Is that Mark Poole? Who does that one?
I'm not sure. Yeah, APAC lands, very cool for the people that don't know about them. Pretty hard to find, and they actually use images from real life as opposed to every other Magic card, which is a artist's creation.
Yeah, the historic, the landmarks that they use, they're really fun. What I really like about the Australian one is it actually has a kangaroo, so holding out hope that there's a kangaroo creature type coming down the line at some point.
That would certainly add a lot of flavor.
Can you imagine equipping that guy? I mean, that'd be amazing. Give him a Sword of Feast and Famine or something. Alright, we got a Twister.
The Twister with a black floating?
Sure. Sure, that seems like a totally reasonable line here versus goblins.
Now, John on a Malta 5 or 4?
Yeah, you take it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a very specific set of cards that are actually good versus you. You know, the 5 that he has, there's a high chance that they'd actually be, you know, better than the 7 random ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, John is a solid enough player that he's going to be at least attempting to mull into a reasonable hand. And I think that hand was potentially good enough. I mean, turn 1 matron into turn
2 prowl is good.
I mean, I don't remember if he had the black source. He may have needed to draw it in the form of fetch land or Badlands or Cavern of Souls. But
yeah, not 100% on that either, but at least he would, you know,
something.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Better than 4 is likely to be. I mean, he has live draws toward potentially ending the game on turn 2 in all essence there.
Right.
And actually, that's the story of this matchup. If you take a look at Jesse's list, he's got the Blightsteel, the Tendrils of Agony, and
that's it. 2 win conditions.
Yeah. So if he doesn't have one in his hand, you know, at that point, the only way that Jesse would likely be able to win would be to somehow run John out of cards, which would be
not likely
impossible.
at all. Yeah, I mean, John's gonna be. Oh, he's showing the camera his hand there. He must be pretty happy about that mulligan.
And we've got the time walk.
Okay. Well, I mean, that seems pretty good. You know, draw 7, get some mana out there. Totally reasonable.
Demonic Tutor in hand.
Vampiric Tutor as well.
Ooh, this could get good fast.
Upkeep Vamp for Lotus. Demonic for Yawgmoth's Will. Recast Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, just the Twister in hand. I don't know that that's the best he can do.
Right, he would need like a ritual or something to go along with that.
Yeah, I mean, he can definitely get like a Necro in play if he wanted to. You know, by vamping for Lotus and then.
Right.
Oh no, he wouldn't have enough black unless he has another black source. Let's see. Does he have another black source? So many options with TPS. And that's one of the things, the player style matters a lot with what type of hand you want to keep and how you anticipate their lines. A lot of people are really dependent on plans like Tinker Blightsteel. They just kind of use that as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you definitely would sideboard differently versus someone like that. A lot of the times I'll board out Hurkyl's Recall in matchups like this. But if I'm playing against somebody who I feel like the only way they're going to outplay me, so to speak, is if they, for turn 1, Tinker Blightsteel, I'll leave it in.
Yeah.
You know, if I take a look and say, well, out of 100 matches that I lose to them, 90 of them are going to be Tinker Blightsteel. How do you not, you know, leave it in there and just concede the fact that, yeah, the card's pretty bad, but it does prevent a lot of losses.
Right.
So we've got the Vamp.
I think I saw him grab the Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to allow him to do whatever he wants with his hand. It sets up for a really good Yawgwill, if that's the line. We'll see what he has for other cards. Lotus.
Yeah. I mean, any ritual really would make that Yawgwill pretty busted.
Yeah.
He's got Tendrils in hand.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So that could potentially make a Yawgwill, a ritualless Yawgwill, viable.
So 1, 2, I mean...
Triple black. Oh, there's the Necro.
There's the Necro. Nice halter.
What is that, the Terminator or something? Can't tell.
Yeah, I believe so.
Looks pretty cool, though. Like half the face gone.
Yeah, Jesse's in really good shape here. Necro is pretty much dominated any format it's ever been legal in.
Yeah.
So this is its resting places in Vintage. You get to use that one.
So he's gonna go down to. He drew 7. What do you have? 2 in hand? I don't know. Probably just like dump 2 islands or something.
Yeah, the cards he's dumped are going to be redundant. They're not going to be able to add to any kind of Yawgmoth's Will because they're going to get discarded. But he's going to be in really good shape. John hasn't even made a land drop yet.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing John can possibly do on his turn is just put out some creatures. I don't even think off of his list he can even swing on the first turn. He has 3 Simian Spirit Guides, so the best he could conceivably do would be like turn 1, War Chief, pile driver, swing for 5.
So Jesse's he's trying to figure out which 7 he's going to keep. And one thing that I do sometimes if I have like a really more than 10 cards in my hand and I'm going to discard is when I'm putting cards down I tend to like put the cards that are most important down and try to build my 7 rather than take away. I don't know. That's just something I do that I think can be helpful if you have like a lot of cards in your hand and you're at discard. Instead of like trying to figure out like what needs to go, start and figure out like what's most important.
Yeah, actually, looking over John's list, I see the best possible draw would involve Mana Crypt as well. So it is conceivable that he could have cast a War Chief and then prowled out an Earwig squad. But that is Christmas Land, and with Jesse already having the tendrils, actually wouldn't have been good enough.
Right.
So he does have a turn 2 prowl.
Yeah. Attack with the prospector, play a land, sack prospector, prowl.
Yeah. So there is some false hope here for John.
Mm-hmm.
He may hopefully we don't see that. That would be like a train wreck.
Storm a 2, 3. Tap the emerald for a Sol Ring, 4. And then what is he going to do from there? I see a Force of Will. We know about tendrils. And so he has 3 cards left in hand.
Yeah, let's see where he
Force
goes
of Will
with
seems
this.
like an awkward keep off of that. But I mean, he got rid of a Duress, a redundant land, and a Chrome Mox. So I guess
probably would have kept the Chrome Mox. It depends. The Haven of Souls really makes it difficult to counter anything worth countering.
Yeah. That's a good point. 4 mana tendrils.
Oh, interesting.
So he's going to do a small tendrils. I think that was for 5, and that'll allow him to draw, like 10 more cards.
Yeah, he really needs to get Yogwill in his hand, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, otherwise he's going to get prowled out.
But drawing up to 10 cards will be very helpful for that. Yeah, he can't counter the prowl. Maybe he's not aware of that. But I mean, he probably is. I'll give him more credit than that. So yeah, looks like he just drew another 10. I mean, honestly, I probably would have drawn.
Oh, he's got a Chain of Vapor.
Oh, okay, that's going to be helpful. I mean, I potentially would have drawn like 18 cards just because he only has a 1/1.
Well, he could play a land, sack it, and then play a War Chief and swing for 2. So
oh, okay, yeah.
There's got to be some restraint here.
Yeah.
And then the Simeon Spirit Guides. I mean, he does know his hand, so. Let's see, the best he could do is what? Just draw a War Chief and swing for 2?
Yeah.
Aside from, prowling, which could be a total disaster. Now let's see what happens. I'm very, very interested.
Doesn't need the ritual, doesn't need the probe, doesn't need the forces, recognizes that force is dead.
But keeps one.
Oh, he does keep one. Interesting.
I think Jesse's about to lose this game. Yes.
Yeah, the prowl. Yeah, he didn't use that Chain of Vapor there.
Yeah, unless he has Yogwill in his hand. That Tendrils is out of reach, barring a Time Twister, but the Twister's already in the bin.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's on Tinker Blightsteel from here on out. Let's see here. So many good cards.
All John needs to take is the Blight Steel and the Yogwill.
Yep.
Oh, Yogwill must be in his hand.
Yeah, it looks it. I didn't see it as John fanned through there. I still don't see it in Jesse's hand. I see a Grim Tutor.
Yeah. So definitely Blight Steel.
Yeah, John. Looks like John may be piecing together the.
Yeah, he's recognizing the graveyard. Okay, so Jesse's plan was to just bounce all of his artifact permanents, replay them for massive amounts of storm and mana generation, and then Yogwill into a lethal tendrils. And there's not much John can do about it.
Yeah, I think John is recognizing that Yogwill's not there. Like, he's looking for it, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's too bad. Yeah, taking Mystical and DT is
just doesn't matter.
Him. Yeah. Yeah, so the turn 2 Prowl there from John, uncounterable. Very, very close to actually sealing the deal, but not quite enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm fully expecting we just see a Yawgmoth's Will into the win here.
Right.
See what Jesse's thinking about. I don't think there's any cards that would really give pause.
I mean, this is game 1, so you can't really reasonably expect your opponent to have a Mindbreak Trap in their Goblin's main deck. So he doesn't have any more artifacts in hand, so he's generating, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue. I mean, Jesse's a very careful player. He thinks a lot about his lines of play, so he's probably just not really so much worrying about what John can do, but A, making sure he doesn't screw up his math, and B, let's just see how big I can really go this turn.
Oh, Tinker.
I mean, he's going to get to replay that Mox anyway. Just get another Mox or a Lotus. No, he already has Lotus. Or no, he doesn't have Lotus anymore because of the... Oh, he does have Lotus. So yeah, he's really just going for the ultimate generation. We'll see how much Storm he can get to. Right now we're at Storm of 1. He's going to play...
Yeah, Yawgmoth's Will is more than lethal here. There's a single card in John's hand that's a question mark. He's going to see that real quick. I mean, he definitely doesn't want to play 3 spells before playing Yogwill. Like, he doesn't want to turn Mindbreak Trap on.
Right.
That's the only card that could really matter.
He does have the Force in hand, so maybe maybe Chain of Vapor is his only other blue card, and he's deciding to try to win without using Chain of Vapor. And the Tinker there adds, he just added 2 Storm with Tinker because of the 2 artifacts he's going to replay from his graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, he has more than lethal.
He's just doing it. He's just playing it absolutely safely because Chain is his only other blue card.
But he doesn't need the Chain to win. That's the other thing. I question that. I think that's... When I'm in situations like this, I try and think of the most efficient way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just for the personal preference. When you're in a spot like that, what are you going to do when you have 3 minutes left in the round? Like, how are you going to play? And I would rather be able to play consistently.
Yeah.
So no matter how much time is left, I'm always in that mode of what's the best way of doing this. Instead of taking this long route, like playing around things that aren't there can potentially cost you in your resource management. One of the biggest differences in between a really good and a great player is their tournament management. In terms of vintage, a lot of the time that means scooping games that you have a chance of winning just to give yourself more time to win games 2 and 3.
Right.
It could be the difference in between playing around cards that don't even exist and, like what we just saw there, compared to finding the most efficient way and getting it done. Because when you are in that spot of having, 2 minutes left in the round, or even if it's 5 minutes and you're the TPS player, win and then have a couple of minutes at the start of the round. You know, that could be the difference in between ending a match in a draw or giving yourself a spot where, if the worst case it's a draw, but you still have a couple of minutes to set up those first crucial turns.
Right.
And then once you're in time, you know, that's fine. You play at a reasonable pace, but you're no longer, you know, so crunched that you're trying to make decisions that are unreasonably fast. So we got the gem palms there.
Yeah, the gem palms come out. The Sting Scourger comes out. I'd say probably even the Grafdigger's Cage comes. Does Yawgmoth's Will give cards flashback, or does it just allow you to play them?
Grafdigger's Cage will stop Yawgmoth's Will.
Stops Yawgmoth's Will.
Because you can't play spells, or can't cast spells from graveyard.
Oh, right.
All you'd be able to do is get a land drop off of it. Creatures can't enter the battlefield from graveyard or library, so it's going to stop your Tinker. Grafdigger's Cage is exactly where you want to be here. He's looking at really the mental missteps, the red elemental and the pyroblast. Jite and Wart are possibilities, but very, very unlikely. And then Chalice of the Void would be coming in. It's really a matter of what he wants to cut. It seems to me like his all-in plan is going to be Earwig Squad, which is what we saw there. It just wasn't quite good enough. You know, a slightly different circumstance, and John won that game, but Jesse having the Yawgmoth's Will in hand changed everything.
So it seems like Goblin Tinkerer can definitely come out. The Mog Fanatic can come out.
Fanatic can safely come out. Sting Scourger's still going to be in there to be able to potentially bounce Blightsteel.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. I mean, he's going to keep all of his mana acceleration, you know, because he wants to make those really early plays, seeing as Jesse can win on turn 1. John wants to make sure that he can win on his earliest possible turn, so he's not going to be cutting his Simian Spirit Guides or his Mana Crypt. I don't actually see a Sol Ring in John's list, which is interesting because it's not free. You don't want to be tapping out for Sol Ring on your first turn. You know, if it's going to cost you playing a Lackey on your first turn. And Sol Ring doesn't really help you towards playing your Warren Instigator either. So I could see not playing Sol Ring in this list, especially with Null Rod's main deck.
Yeah, the extra colorless mana really doesn't pull its weight. It's certainly not as much as Simian Spirit Guide.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I don't think John's going to bring I don't know, 4 or 5 cards. So he's got probably the Chalice of the Void. Chalice on 0 and Chalice on 1 seems really strong. Red Elemental Blast, I mean, doesn't do huge amounts of hindrance, but you got to bring in something.
Yeah, and on Jesse's side of the table, he doesn't really have to worry about it too much. You know, he's got a Preordain in there. I guess that's going to be coming in.
Preordain in the sideboard.
He really doesn't have much to worry about in this matchup. He just wants to be able to beat John before John beats him, which is pretty realistic. And you know, the Prowl is a concern. It would be nice if he could bring in extra win conditions to be able to ignore Prowl. But that's just not realistic. It certainly wouldn't be worth the slot. And it's not like Goblins is everywhere.
Maybe an additional Chain of Vapor?
Yeah, Chain of Vapor would be very reasonable. The basic Island, because he's facing down Wastelands. Again, and Pithing Needle.
Maybe cut like 2 Force of Will, because it's card disadvantage and the uncounterable land there. Cavern of Souls. Yeah.
It's definitely one of the weakest cards in his list in this matchup. I mean, Duress is really bad too. So it's going to be a little tinkering around the edges for Jesse, and then a heck of a lot of disruption from John. And we'll see. This was John's first time playing in these sanctioned events. I hope he's able to make it back. You know, making it to the finals makes him the first person to both cash in the unpowered prize and in the top 4. Actually, he'll be in the first or second seed here, no matter how this turns out. So this is a really good spot for him. He walked away with a significant payday, had a lot of fun, and look forward to hopefully this inspiring more people to play unpowered decks, because the expected value is just insane. Like, if you're gonna win that unpowered prize a decent percentage of the time, you're essentially free rolling these tournaments and having a shot at a really good top 4 payout.
Yeah, so I guess Jesse's keeping his opener. Did I see a Lotus? I saw some sort of artifact acceleration. Is John on a mulligan, or is he just is he still?
Yeah, I believe he's mulling here. We'll see when he draws his hand. I was looking at the deck list at the time here, trying to find any kind of help for Jesse. It really is just tinkering around the edges. I think Force of Will's probably fine. I mean, it's going to stop the red blast. It's going to force through the misstep.
Right.
I mean, it could stop a card like Null Rod.
Mm-hmm. John can play his turn 1 Null Rod and turn off his mana source, which is probably worth it. Unless that's his only. What does he have? A Simian Spirit Guide?
That looks like a mountain in the middle of his hand there.
Okay, a mountain. Alright. So, I think if I'm seeing correctly, he could. Yeah, he's just going to mulligan. Yeah. That could happen.
Yeah, I think if I saw that correctly and he had Mana Crypt and Null Rod, he may have undervalued how powerful Null Rod is in this matchup.
Yeah.
It is very, very crippling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jesse's list plays rituals, but it doesn't rely on rituals for mana acceleration. Which, it doesn't need to because of all the power in this format.
Yeah, Lotus is just the best ritual you could possibly ask for, but Null Rod totally shuts it down. And the Chalice of the Void would do the same.
Maybe he was worried that would have been too lateral, I guess, or too symmetrical is what I was trying to say, because it would shut off his mana source. And he's got a piece of hate. I mean,
yeah. He's got the Mana Crypt and a Grafdigger's Cage. He's got to draw a red source here.
Yep.
But we'll see where this goes. Grafdigger's Cage, it's disruptive, but it doesn't stop Jesse outright. He can still Storm 10 and play the Tendrils. We'll see if he even needs to answer it. On a full grip of 7, he may not have to.
Yeah, so he's running out the Sapphire as his only mana source. Preordain. Can't really see what he's preordaining into.
Yeah, Preordain does so much work. I really enjoy playing the card. My current lists haven't been running it. I've been on a Grixis control for the most part, aside from this appearance with Goblins. And a lot of that has to do with the Workshop matchup. I love that card, but it's not worth 2 or 3 mana. 1 mana is exactly what you want to be paying on that. The great thing about Jesse's deck is pretty much anytime he has Yawgmoth's Will, it's probably going to be lethal. He's going to have some card drawing in there, probably a little bit of mana acceleration, and usually that's going to be enough to recoup the cost of the Yawg Will, generate some card advantage, and just play a lethal Tendrils. It's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. So it looks like Jesse's getting ready to pass the turn. Oh, he does have a land drop. Okay. Alright.
Yeah, so really the situation John is in here is if he draws a Cavern of Souls, he's going to be able to power out the Matron and then prowl out an Earwig squad. So that's really what he has to be drawing is Cavern of Souls to make it uncounterable. But he'll take a bad lands if he has to.
Right. And Mountain. Well, but I mean, if he plays the Matron this turn, he can still draw a black source next turn. He doesn't need the black source here necessarily. He just needs it before he prowls. But he's not giving himself that line.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that might be a misplay from John here. I really do feel like the Earwig squad is the most important card for him here. And I think he's kind of looking at it a little bit like Legacy, where he plans on putting in the Ringleader and generating some card advantage.
Yeah.
But the density is very different in Vintage and Legacy in terms of the number of goblins. He's bringing in things like Mental Misstep and Red Blast, and you're gonna see those. Chalice of the Void as well, and he has some of those things main deck. So.
Yeah, and the card advantage isn't really going to help him too much because that's only going to set him up for like a win 2 or 3 turns down the line, where giving your opponent who's on Storm, giving him lines where you're going to allow him 2 to 3 turns is really going to just give him too much leeway to draw out of a situation.
Yeah, and it's not like Legacy where you're trading bodies in combat all the time. You
Right.
just need to set a reasonable clock and finish the game before they answer your disruption. You know, the extra 2/2 body, it's not like, oh, I can trade this with their Dark Confidant and this and that. I mean, while that can happen in Vintage, that's certainly not the matchup we're looking at here.
Mm-hmm. So let's see if
Drawing Chain of Vapor. Most likely he's going to be looking at bouncing the Grafdigger's Cage and winning. He's got to worry about Red Elemental Blast and Misstep if he passes the turn.
I see a Dark Ritual. Yeah. I don't believe he has another land in his hand. But that might not matter. So he could... So he's bouncing the... Yep, bouncing the cage. So that pretty much says, like, he plans on winning right now, because if he passes the turn, John's just going to replay cage.
Yeah, that's interesting, because he didn't sack the land. What we could have seen there is bounce the Sapphire, sack a land, bounce the cage. That extra storm and mana could be relevant. If he is actually going to win right now,
Yeah.
that would have been really solid. Maybe we're just going to see a time walk here. That would make a lot of sense.
Okay, yeah, time walk would make sense.
Yeah, other than that, I really like the play of getting the extra storm and mana.
Nope, no time walk.
Oh, let's see where this goes. Three black.
Maybe it's like you said, he just figured out a line with a direct route to victory, and he did the math, and he didn't take the extra time to calculate that he could have gotten extra storm and an extra mana, because he didn't need to.
Yeah, that may be possible. Let's see what happens here. That's just kind of like a default play to me. You just automatically are going to be making that play. Pretty much any situation. Chain of Vapor does so much work like that.
Right.
Apparently we have a Yawgmoth's Will coming up. That would be my guess.
So right now we got Storm of Chain of Vapor. Or no, was that on his end? No, that was this turn.
Yeah.
Chain of Vapor, Mox Ruby, Ritual. So Storm of 4. And I guess he's going to have... Does he have Threshold?
Yeah.
4, 5, 6. He has exactly Threshold, so the Cabal Ritual only made 3 mana. So he's got 4 mana, 4 black in his pool. Yeah, 4 black in the pool, and then a Yawg-Will. And he's going to go down to 1, then back up to 4.
See, if he had sacked the land to the Cabal,
he could
to the Chain of Vapor, he also would have had the extra for the... let's see, this better be exactly lethal.
Yeah. What else does he have in his graveyard that could win him the game here? Like
some card drawing.
Oh, he has a land drop.
Yep. And he would have had the land drop if he had sacked the land as well. He would have just been able to replay that.
He also would have gotten more mana off the Cabal Ritual because it would have been thresholded.
Yeah. That's one of those things where it's just like a default line where it's just... I think it's important to recognize that and just have that as part of like almost your autopilot. Like if you're winning right now, then you should just be getting maximum mileage out of your Chain of Vapor.
Well, what he's going to do, I think, is he's going to be able to Mystical Tutor for Demonic, and then he can Gitaxian Probe into Demonic, and then go Ritual.
I mean,
yeah, that's not...
He may just be tutoring for the Tendrils here as well.
Is Storm lethal at this point?
Yeah, he's got a ton of Storm, because remember the earlier Chain of Vapors.
Oh yeah, so Storm would be the Ruby, Chain of Vapor, Ritual, Yawgmoth's Will, Mystical Tutor, Ritual, Gitaxian Probe, Tendrils. That's exact.
Oh yeah, by a mile, absolutely. Yeah, I mean John's at 17.
So it's actually 1 over, but
yeah, he's in really good shape.
So Jesse figured out the line of exactly 10 Storm, which, you know, works. that wins the game right there.
Yeah, I would have liked to see the Chain of Vapor just as a default play. It's something you really don't want to be thinking about. It's just like obviously like this is just what you do when you're winning.
Well, yeah,
It's
if you
utility
know you're
after
gonna
that.
win that turn,
Yep.
then yeah, you're absolutely right.
When you're taking that line, that's what's going on there.
Yeah.
So, getting the threshold for the therapy or for the Cabal ritual, as well as the. I mean, that's actually a little surprising. But enough for Jesse to take it down.
Yep.
2-0 versus Goblins. It's a really difficult matchup for Goblins. I look forward to talking to John about the changes he would make, because those were games that he would have really needed to disrupt a lot more effectively. And also, I'd be interested to hear his thoughts on Matron instead of Lackey there. Even though he didn't get another turn, it still would have given him that chance on his upcoming turn,
right?
Had he not been tenfold out.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't give yourself outs, then you don't ever have the chance of drawing those outs.
Yep, yeah, and I think the number of main deck cages, all of those things, we'll see how John changes that moving forward. But it looks like we're seeing a sideboard plan brought in exactly what we anticipated. Those red blasts are very tempting. I don't know that that's actually where the deck wants to be. Misstep seems like it's probably a little bit better because you're going to be disrupting and not having to keep your mana back. Though it's very satisfying to monkey blast someone with Simian Spirit Guide and Red Blast.
Yeah. Out of nowhere.
Just like playing Force of Will. But with a monkey.
Everything's better with monkeys. So, yeah, that was round 4. Jesse Martin taking it down with TPS. I'd like to thank TheEndStep for coming out and recording this video. Dave Tassinari over at Scholars again for hosting this tournament. And I'd like to thank my friend Eric here for helping us do the coverage and organizing the tournament and promoting it. Really doing a lot to further the vintage community.
I have a blast doing it. I'm really excited about the upcoming Vintage Championships coming up in November, and hopefully see a lot of the viewers, maybe for the first time, at that event. It's going to be a great one.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.